Let's begin with the very first test. So after we have our driver, we're going to need a page object, right? What are we going to call this? We're going to call this a login page. And of course, we'll want to pass in our driver. Excellent. Next, what are we going to do with our login page? Well, we're going to open it. And then after we open it, we need an assertion to make sure that it's loaded, right? Fantastic. There is our red face. First uncompiled test. And at this point, we need to make this test compile. So one of the very reasons why this technique is so powerful is rather than thinking about all of the dependencies that go where they need to go, which dependencies do I need, if we know the API a little bit and we think about the logic beforehand as we're writing the test, we can actually let the IDE create everything for us and solve all of our problems. So for example, it doesn't recognize WebDriver, right? Well, so obviously WebDriver is a maven dependency, so we can just go and get that maven dependency. We can search for the artifact here, Selenium, and there we go. I don't want the alpha version yet, so I'm going to stick to 3.14159. Excellent. So that grabbed our dependency, and now we just need to import the class. That resolves that problem, and of course we'll import that class as well. Here, excellent. So those are imported. Now we're gonna resolve this dependency. Look, again, using our IDE to solve all of our problems really easily. This is why this technique is so good and fast, is it reduces a bunch of steps in the test automation process that we would normally have to do manually. So let's create a class login page. See that? Boom, already have an automatic class. Sure, let's add it to source control. Excellent, let's go back. And of course, we need to add a constructor. Let's create a constructor. It's going to take a WebDriver, and we'll do this. And we'll set it to the driver, right at which point we'll need to create a field. Excellent. And so we're all set there. Next, we need an open method. Let's create an open method. Fantastic. What will this open method do? Well, it's going to use driver get, and then we'll pass in our URL, right? All right, fantastic. Next, we need an assertion. So let's see what this is complaining about. Oh, we just need to import a static method. Of course, I cheated also a little bit. I added the rest of the dependencies like JUnit and Maven and all that kind of stuff. Just again, because why make you bored from all these imports? But you see the idea that you just basically use your IDE to solve all of the problems for you. And then whenever you need to fill in implementation details, you fill in the implementation details. So we've resolved all of that. Let's do a isLoaded method. Okay, excellent. And so to assert that our page is loaded, we always want to use an explicit wait. So let's do a WebDriver wait. A new WebDriver wait, and that takes in a driver, and then we'll set a timeout to 10 seconds. Fantastic. And then we want to wait until expected conditions. Let's see. I'm going to do this, visibility of element located. Make sure that it's visible. And now what locator are we going to want to get? Why don't we grab this swag labs? Let's check that out. Class. Actually, even better, let's grab this just username field. And that is here, ID username. Fantastic. And we want to return a Boolean. So let's say that this is displayed. Perfect. This is displayed as a Selenium method if you didn't know. Excellent. And of course, we need a return statement. There we go. Fantastic. All done. All right. Our first test is ready. Wasn't that insanely easy and fast? So we went through the red phase. We just finished the green phase. And now our test is going to pass. So let's run this. We're making our test pass. Let's make sure it's running. Fantastic. Opening it up. And excellent. So the test is running and passing. So now we enter the refactor phase. In the refactor phase, we look for any duplications and any thing that will hinder our future test automation code. A lot of it is duplication. You might introduce some pattern somewhere. You might introduce some abstraction, some encapsulation somewhere. And for me, at this point of time, this test looks excellent. Everything is good. We're not going to over-engineer anything. We know some things that might come up in the future, right? We probably need a setup method. We probably need a teardown method, but we're not going to engineer that because those are not our current requirements. And so if those are not our current requirements, we are not going to meet them. And so as this current test stands, I believe it's in the best form possible. It uses the page object pattern. It looks great. It's easy to read. It works. Everything is great. We are done with the refactor phase. And so the only two phases to check are to make sure that our test is failing, right? And so for that, we can come in here and change this to make sure that it fails. So we obviously change the ID. So let's run it and see that it fails. And then we also get to see the error that comes up to see if we like that error. And then after this red phase, we just go back to the green phase because we just fixed the error. So the last two are really easy. They almost happen simultaneously. You just test to make sure that your test fails, which it did. You can see that it took a really long time. And you can see here that here's the test. It failed. And here's the exception. You can see that we were waiting for this element to found. We tried it, but we didn't find it. And so it failed. And so now we just turn it back to green and we are solid. That is done. We are done through our first iteration. We've already written our first test. And this is right now ready to go to production. Yes, I know it's missing a bunch of features. You can add logging. You can add a bunch of other stuff here. But you can literally push this test to production right now and it can start running and it can start validating the quality of your software and letting you know whether you can or cannot go to production with your software. How awesome is that? Technically, we could be done here, but I promised you a lot more in under 60 minutes. And so now we're going to write even a second test and extend the automation framework so you can see how easy it is to continue to make this process work.